On the occasion of Great People Manager Awards 2023, we welcome Mr. Harsh Mariwala, Chairman and Co-founder of Marico Limited, to Great Manager Institute. All right, welcome to all of you to this Fireside Chat with Mr. Harsh Mariwala, Chairman, Co-founder of Marico Limited. Mr. Mariwala, thank you so much for this opportunity on behalf of Great Manager Institute. Welcome to this. And it's really a privilege for me to be on this conversation with you. So Mr. Mariwala, let me begin with one of the toughest questions you've probably ever been asked. From a shy student at the New Era High School to the founder of Marico Limited, what's been this journey like for you?
So, as you rightly put it, I was shy, introvert. And I think I never realized what I was going to do in life. But one thing I was very clear that I am going to be running a business. So that desire to be in business was very high. I was very clear I was not going to work for anybody else. So because I was coming from a business family, the family also were in business. So in a way that gave me an opportunity to join that family business. So that clarity was there. But beyond that, I was not sure what I would do. And I strongly believe that I think each of us has some God-given gifts and some weaknesses. And we need to leverage our gifts or our strengths to shape our career, to shape our interests. Because if you are good at something, you like doing that, you are passionate about it, and the chances of your succeeding in those endeavors are going to be much higher. So I, being an introvert, was not cut out for a B2B business where I would go and meet clients and make them, entertain them and nice to them. So that was not for me. I am weak in technology, so I am not a technology person. I can understand a little bit, but clearly technological businesses were not for me. And one other thing which I am not good at is to go to any bureaucrats and ask for favors. So looking at my own strengths and weaknesses, it just so happened that I chanced upon building a branded consumer branded business, which did not require very high technology, which did not require going and selling it to buyers of big companies, which did not require me to go to Delhi because the business has been delicensed from a long period of time. And I can deal with the trade, which is our distributors, retailers. It's very easy for me to settle in that. And then finally to all the consumers through mass media marketing. So it's evolved, I would say, over a period of time. And as I went on doing well, I think I became more confident. If you asked me many years back when I was there, could I have spoken to at some events as a speaker, I would have fumbled. But over a period of time, it's now I can speak to audiences. I've done it 2,000, 3,000 people also. So I think a lot comes with confidence.
Certainly.
And experience. And I think ultimately, once you start doing well, then it reflects in your personality. So I won't call myself introvert now. So I have changed on that front also. So I am far more confident and I can speak to any audience today. So I would say in short, I have evolved as a person from what I thought I was and never expected to reach where I am today.
That's such a lovely description, evolved.
Yeah.
All of us every day are seeking to evolve. And therefore, as I look at your journey, Mr. Mariwala, this has been a fascinating journey of how leaders grow. And therefore, we've always been asked this question, probably one of the oldest questions about leadership that's ever been asked. Are leaders born or made?
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
So I think it's very difficult to, I think it's both, you would say. There are certain inherent traits you require to become a leader, but you are not born, that's for sure. Ultimately, even if you have those traits in a very positive way, but there are learnings, there are explorations, there are some mistakes you'll make and learn from there. So you can't say I have been born as a leader. You have to have, to me, you have to have certain traits, and the biggest trait would be that desire to lead and make an impact, followed by being people related, because ultimately any leadership is to connect with people. So you should be good in dealing with people, and that desire to improve, to learn, be curious is what will make you a good leader. So, but those initial traits have to be there, and then you have to go on working on your leadership style, on being a effective leader, and that's a lifelong learning. You cannot say that I've done it and I've mastered it. I think all your life you have to go on learning, and as you learn and you make mistakes, you go on improving your style. And with different changes in, shall I say, the environment, I think there are new and new learnings on leadership. For example, pre-COVID, post-COVID, the whole focus has shifted more to empathy, shifted to authenticity, shifted to looking at all the stakeholders and not just, so look at all the stakeholders in an organization. So I think those shifts have happened in the environment, because of the environment, and I think ultimately that has to start reflecting in leadership also.
Very true. So Mr. Mariwala, before I go to my next question, on behalf of Great Manager Institute, I want to thank you for your gift to us in form of your book, Harsh Realities. And while I was going through the book, which is a fascinating read, I was really intrigued by your whole self-education phenomenon, asking, observing, seeking information, going and meeting customers, distributors yourself. Tell us, what significance does this phenomenon have in the evolution of any leader?
So I think before I answer your question, I want to talk a little bit about the book which I wrote 1.5 years back. It's done well. It's a bestseller, and I think on Amazon there are more than 450 reviews with an average rating of 4.5 on a 5-point scale. Yeah. So all in all, very good feedback, and the book is meant for entrepreneurs, professional managers and students, and there are a lot of learnings. So if any of your audience is listening to me, I would strongly say that you please read the book. It has very interesting chapters on culture building. Culture is very soft. It's talked a lot about, but I think it's difficult to build. Its values is easy to finalize values, but how do you convert those values into culture is a big challenge for the organization. And I've described in detail how do you make that happen. So I think that's one thing I would like to talk about the book. But having said that, to me, a lot depended on the way I was brought up. And when I joined the family business, it was a completely family managed business. There were no professionals. And I was left loose by my father saying that you do whatever you feel like doing. So if you have to succeed in a new business or build a business, then first of all, I am just a commerce graduate. So I had to learn the ropes of, in the initial stages, functional management. For example, how do you do marketing, or how do you sell products, or how do you handle HR? And there was nobody to guide me. So I had to seek help from others. And in those days, I worked with individual consultants who helped me in terms of improving my knowledge base. So since then, I have had this kind of a streak in me saying that I think you should learn. And I've learned a lot when I've discussed or talked to people, even at the workman level in factory, or at if I go to the market visit, then learning from say sales field force or distributors or their sales reps. And my belief in and curiosity in finding out and learning from them has gone on getting reinforced, because I think that's something which I started when I was very young, and I still practice that. And because of very positive experiences, learnings, I have continued doing that. But the key learning for any manager is that you have to be humble. You have to, irrespective of the level, you can learn from others. And you have to actually say that, what can you teach me in this area? So sometimes you may not get the right advice, but many times you will get nuggets of wisdom in this journey. So it's very important how you ask questions, what is your reaction to the answers given, and if you go on exhibiting that streak of curiosity, I think that will help any manager, because as I said earlier, it's a lifelong learning experience which makes you.
Lifelong learning, and that's the mantra.
Yes.
Mr. Mariwala, thousands of managers we meet at Great Manager Institute, and of course, many of them would be watching this. You built brands like Parachute and Saffola. Are there any parallels from that experience that leaders can draw on building a personal brand as a leader?
So, I think it's important to build a brand, whether in our case Parachute or Saffola, which was a branded consumer goods, but separately personal brand building I think is important. It gives you, I think you can leverage on the brand you built, because it can help you in your career depending on what brand you build. But it requires concerted kind of a action from you to build that brand. I think one has to be clear, what is the brand you want to build. Do I want to become a functional expert? Do I want to become a CEO kind of potential? Again, what you want to be known as, leadership style, what are your key strengths? So I think it should again be based on your strengths, and you have to go on reinforcing that from different angles. So whether it's the article you write it internally or people you speak to, people should associate you with the kind of personality you have and the kind of brand you want to build it for yourself. So I think the starting point would be to identifying what are my strengths. And many of us don't know our own strengths. So, and we can learn that from our family members, from our friends, from our colleagues. And having done that at different stages of your career, you may want to say that, okay, in the next 3 to 5 years, I want to be known as this. So there are enough opportunities for you to build brand through social media, digital marketing, through talks like this, through writing, influencing, or internally talking to people. But if you are ambitious and if you want to grow, then I think it's important that brand building at a personal level should start. You may be at a middle and senior level, it could be just the beginning, but if you want to become the CEO, I think that will play an important role in your own journey, and ultimately it should be based on authenticity. You just can't build a brand. People should feel that the brand you stand for, the way the person you're known for, you are like that. There should not be any gap between what you're known versus what you are.
So that's the third thing I'm picking up, Mr. Mariwala. You talked about learning, you talked about humility, and now you're talking about authenticity as a very, very important attribute of a good leader. So another very interesting thing that caught my attention in your book was how at different stages of your career you have had to influence to make something happen. And there are several instances. And that's one thing that we find a lot of managers and leaders want to learn, they struggle with. How do I influence and make things happen? So any quick thoughts, ideas on that?
So I think depending on what you are trying to achieve. There is one school of leadership which says that you're the boss, you should decide everything fast. And there is a need for agility in today's world. One saw the need to improve on agility in the pandemic, where vaccines which used to take 10 years were made within 2 years. So there is a need for bias for action, agility. But I think there are certain key organizational initiatives which require you to influence. And I find that some leaders think that it's a waste of time, because any consensus building takes time. I must have spent days and days building consensus for the values which we were trying to project, the values to be converted to a culture. And I think the time spent was huge, but it has been fully worth it because ultimately you build a culture not just because you're a leader. I think the top 2-3 layers of management or leadership have to build that culture. If somebody down the line gives a wrong signal saying that no, this is the MD's culture and I don't agree with it, then people down the line will start becoming very cynical.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happening in organizations where the values are pasted on the reception, but when you talk to people down the line, they feel that this is just something for the show. I didn't want that to happen. So for that deep kind of a conviction to drive that culture journey is very, very important. That can only happen through influence. And ultimately you can only influence people when you involve them. So involvement leads to commitment.
Wonderful.
And if I could have finalized the values, told them these are the values, let's practice it. But the fact that they were asked to critique those values, give their views in terms of what, I think that it meant that the value shifted from me to my team to the leadership in the organization. So the involvement led to a very high degree of ownership that okay, these are our values. And the same thing, I have one more example where in a family, and some of the audience may be dealing in family managed companies, family owned companies. I think within a family it's very important to drive consensus. So when it came to shifting the business from Bombay Oil Industries to Marico in the year 1990, I must have spent 3 years or so just convincing the family. And that happened through influence, through involving others. To me, somebody would have said, oh, you wasted 3 years. But if I had not done well, I would have still been fighting within the family. So I had to navigate in such a way that my path was clear completely.
Certainly.
And once it was clear, I was not fighting internal battles. And sometimes it can take time. But for very crucial organizational issues, it's fully worth to spend that time to influence others.
Wonderful. And therefore, we've got another mantra, if I may say so, of involvement. Yes. And that really leads to commitment and
for organized, but for each and everything you don't need to involve.
Yes.
I agree. So there has to be the right balance. The leader has to decide.
And since you brought the aspect of balance, we often find that managers and leaders are caught up in this dilemma about should I focus on my relationships and people and culture? Should I focus on results and tasks?
Yeah.
And we all know this both are important.
Yes.
How does a leader or a manager establish that significance in his or her behavior?
So it's a tricky question, but I think you're absolutely right that the concern for task and the concern for people has to be high. You cannot compromise tasks, you cannot compromise people. And I think that's the way a good leader should operate, to look at achieving tasks or productivity, at the same time have the right leadership traits. But that doesn't mean that, if somebody is non-performing, you overlook that. I think you have to ensure that the people working for you are treated fairly on meritocracy, given them chance to perform, train them, coach them, whatever is required to help their productivity. But you can't take a stance that, okay, you go after task and if somebody who has a toxic leadership style, that's not tolerated in the organization, because that toxicity will just go down, then it will lead to gossiping, it will lead to backbiting. So you need to have a style which is very open, which is very participative, which is in some crucial issues consensus based, which is involving people, because ultimately you want people to feel like owners. My job, I may be a financial owner, but my job when I work with people in the organization is to make each of them feel like an owner. The way I respect them, the way I treat them, the way I involve them, and maybe financially also, in terms of now you get ESOPs and things like that, in terms of some financial also compensation. But it's very important to give them that opportunity to grow, because I think each person works in the organization to grow in terms of responsibility, to have a challenge in life. Challenge what is something which makes life exciting for you, and also enjoy working. You want to work in an organization which is devoid of politicking and gossiping and backbiting, and that can only come through a culture of openness and trust. If I don't like something about you, I should be able to tell you on your face, I don't like Vishwanath, I don't like the way you're asking me a question. Instead of me talking to 20 other people and backbiting behind your back.
That's not going to help.
That's not going to help. That's unnecessarily going to lead to a gossip, and I never worked anywhere else, but I've heard that in many organizations you need to have the right kind of a way to grow. You need to back the right manager, and I wanted to avoid all that. So you can avoid it by having a culture of openness, trust. And things like we've discussed, we've had relationship reviews with the teams saying that go out for 1 or 2 days, what I like about you, what I don't like about you, not only with the boss and the subordinate, but at the peer level also. So you need to bring in a leadership style which is involving, which is open, which is participative.
And you're also saying, even if it means sometimes you have to be tough, you be tough.
You should be tough. It's not at the cost of not being tough. I mean, if there is a non-power. Multiple times I am in a situation where somebody has played a very, very important role in helping me in terms of good performance, very valuable member, but as the business scale has grown, that person was not able to meet that challenge. So what do you do in this case? At one level you are indebted to that person because that person has really helped you, but at the same time that person is now falling behind. And especially at senior levels, if you have a weak link in your team, then it has an impact on the other team members. Right? And they will start feeling demotivated. See, this guy is not performing and now he's being tolerated. So it's very important to look at the organization's interest and give that person an opportunity to improve. But after doing all that, if it is not improved still, I think it's better that you take a call for asking that person to go. But do it in a human manner. Don't do it overnight. Give that person an opportunity. Outplace that person. Ensure that financially that person is not hit. But you cannot compromise. Performance just because that person has helped you in the past or played a very crucial role, because it will lead to an issue of others not feeling motivated, or a weak link may impact others' performance. And if that kind of culture gets built up, the good performers will leave and the poor performers will continue to be working with you, which is not good in the organization.
That's such an amazing insight. Thank you, Mr. Mariwala. So, Mr. Mariwala, I find in your book there are several instances which characterize the risk and the courage of a leader. How significant are these attributes in today's context?
So I think the biggest hindrance to risk is the fear of failure. And you have to remove the fear of failure amongst each and every person working in your organization. And to that extent, if somebody takes a risk, somebody experiments something which has been well thought through, many times they may not succeed, because any innovation, any experimentation, you will not know whether it will succeed or not. But you have to create a culture of risk-taking. You have to create a culture of experimentation, remove that fear of failure. And I think it's very important in today's environment, today's businesses, to encourage risk-taking, to encourage experimentation. It doesn't mean that you take such a big risk that the organization's future is going to get impacted. You can prototype that on a very small scale. You may have a big idea, but you can prototype on a small scale. And I think that has to be encouraged across organization by managers. And if some experiment is not done well, if you punish that person in terms of not giving the right increment or not promoting it in terms of, apart from the fact that he deserved promotion, it will send a very wrong signal. People will stop taking this. So it's very important to encourage risk-taking, and many times celebrate failures also, because after every failure there is a learning, So it's like saying sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And I say sometimes you win, but you always learn if you fail. So a lot of my learnings, have come out of failures. There are multiple failures, but it's okay to fail. Don't be scared of failures. And I think risk-taking is very crucial in today's environment.
And especially maybe in today's environment where people can't become experts in something. So they're constantly learning and they're likely to fail. And that you're saying is an important aspect of what leaders do. So, one very, very interesting thing that we don't often find in books there's actually a board meeting, minutes of the meeting template that's been published in your book.
Yes.
And I find that there's a feedback at a board level on different elements on how the meeting has gone.
Yes.
What was the thought behind this and who designed it? And
So I am a very strong believer in the role of a board. The role of a board is very crucial. It's a source of competitive advantage, and unfortunately Indian boards have a lot to learn in improving board effectiveness. So the days are gone when the board constitution consists of your friends.
yeah.
Or when the board issues are mainly statutory issues. So if the chairman of the company says that the board is a source of competitive advantage, then you will do everything to discuss in the board: strategy, the culture, the purpose of the organization. And one of the things which you just mentioned was that, okay, at the end of the board meeting, we have a very simple 4-point questionnaire.
Yes.
Was the board deck okay? Was there open discussion? Was the board able to add value to the company? Just more reality check, I would say, amongst many other things. But I think the larger issue is, how do you improve board effectiveness? And I think there are a lot of, I would say, nuggets of wisdom covered by Professor Ramcharan. Ramcharan is my co-author in this book, and I think he has helped me a lot in terms of improving board effectiveness. He's had workshops with my board in terms of the role of the board, the role of the chairman, role of individual directors, what kind of profile you require for being a good member and board member. So I think it's very important. If you are at a level of chairman or at a board level, then it's important that you continuously work on improving board effectiveness.
And one element there is openness. How open has the conversation been during the meetings?
Because the management team spends a lot of time on board deck, on preparing for the board meetings.
Yes.
And if they have to ultimately get value from the board, and they should feel, yes, good, I want to go to the board meeting rather than being scared of attending the board meeting.
Certainly. And my last question, Mr. Mariwala, as a leader of the company, and of course various other roles that you play in your personal and professional life, how do you balance this? And that's a question that I'm sure I'm asking on behalf of thousands and thousands of managers and leaders that are watching this.
So I strongly feel that focus is very important. When I was running the company, most of my time was focused in terms of focus in terms of what is my business, what it should be. So very clearly, we said we have to be in personal products and healthy foods, nothing beyond that. We will only be present in these geographies. So I think that focus has to be very clear. It has to go all the way down. So everybody knows that this is how the organization is headed. Yeah. Number two, you need to have very good talent. If you have good talent, then you'll empower them.
Yes.
And I think every person will have time pressures, but lack of time to me is an effect. You can't say on a perpetual basis that I don't have time. Once in a while, if there is some big project going, I understand that you have to work, but you can't say I don't have any time. And that can only occur through a focused approach to building a business, to investing in talent and capabilities in advance. If your business is likely to grow at a much higher, it's better to invest in competencies in advance and project that, okay, what will be the competencies required after 2 years? Can I have those competencies now? So that when that growth occurs, that doesn't come in the way of growth, So I would say focus, good talent, and ultimately delegation, leadership style, they play a very, very important role in ensuring that you are able to do many, many things.
Many things, absolutely. Play multiple roles. Wonderful. And therefore, just as a concluding question, is there anything that I have not asked you that you would like to talk about in this forum at Great Manager Institute? Because I'm sure a lot of managers, leaders are listening to this, they're watching this.
No, I think I always say that, just not passion. Passion has to be combined with perseverance and determination. What's known as grit, because all of us will have failures, setbacks.
Very true.
We can't just say that, no, I want to give it up. You have to bounce back. I think grit is important. I strongly believe that a win-win negotiation is very important. So it's when I'm negotiating with a labor union. If I take a stance of win-lose, and automatically over some period of time it will hit back. I think the strengths-based approach is also important. You know, every person has some strengths and every person has weaknesses. Can you leverage your career, your future based on your strengths rather than go on trying to improve your weaknesses? So 75-25% approach. 75% effort should go in improving your strength, 25% in nullifying your weakness. Unless you have some fatal flaws, then of course you need to change, you know. So I think these are, and ultimately every person has to have a purpose in life, you know. It's at some stage that you have to say that what is my purpose?
What's my purpose?
It's not, I mean, beyond the point, you initially when you start out, you want to make money, then you want to be recognized, you want to be a leader. But at some stage, say what next, what next? And I think that's where it's very important to identify what is your purpose in life. And as I said earlier, you know, the purpose of life is life of purpose.
That's so insightful. Yeah. That's so insightful. And we're coming to the last section, Mr. Mariwala, and this is going to be like quick rapid fire, one word from you on this. Are you ready for this?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Your inspiration.
It's come from within. I don't have a one person who inspired me.
All right, we'll take that. Your worst fear, which may or may not have come true, but you still acknowledge that.
Something which may, unforeseen calamity which may happen in the family. I sometimes feel that sometimes when you read about something, so it's more to do with something within the family not going well.
I understand. And you've talked a lot about your mentoring relationship with Professor Ramcharan.
Yes.
Your childhood mentor, who was your childhood mentor?
Nobody. I have learned from so many people and across diverse. I don't have one single individual.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
One advice that you will have for young professionals entering Indian workforce today?
I think have that burning desire to succeed. You know? Then if you have that, you will overcome all the obstacles.
And the last question. Managers or leaders for the next phase of India in growth story?
No, ultimately managers have to turn into leaders. You know, you start with a manager, but ultimately you have to be leaders in terms of making an impact.
Mr. Mariwala, we can't thank you enough for this amazing, insightful Fireside Chat. All the nuggets of wisdom, I'm sure, are replete with experiences, and we are very, very sure that these are going to be very valuable. And again, thank you for your harsh realities. I'm sure it's going to do well, and it's already doing well. And thank you again for this time and this opportunity.
Thank you, Vishwanath, and all the best to all the viewers. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.